Welcome to Bite at a Time Books, where we read you your favorite classics one bite at a time. My name is Bree Carlile, and I love to read and wanted to share my passion with listeners like you. You can sign up for our newsletter at biteatatimebooks.com. You'll also find our new t-shirts in the shop, including podcast shirts and quote shirts from your favorite classic novels. Be sure to follow my show on your favorite podcast platform so you get all the new episodes. We're part of the Bite at a Time Books Productions Network. If you'd also like to hear what inspired your favorite classic author to write their novels, and what was going on in the world at the time, check out the Bite at a Time Books Behind the Story podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. Today we'll be continuing Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, in which a police agent bestows 2 fistfuls on a lawyer. On arriving at number 14 Rue des Pontois, he ascended to the first floor and inquired for the commissary of police. "The commissary of police is not here," said a clerk, "but there is an inspector who takes his place. Would you like to speak to him? Are you in haste?" "Yes," said Marius. The clerk introduced him into the commissary's office. There stood a tall man behind a grating, leaning against a stove and holding up with both hands the tails of a vast topcoat with 3 collars. His face was square, with a thin, firm mouth, thick, gray, and very ferocious whiskers, and a look that was enough to turn your pockets inside out. Of that glance it might have been well said, not that it penetrated, but that it searched. The man's air was not much less ferocious, nor less terrible than Jondrette's. The dog is, at times, no less terrible to meet than the wolf. "What do you want?" he said to Marius without adding "Monsieur." "Is this Monsieur le Commissaire de Police?" "He is absent. I am here in his stead." "The matter is very private." "Then speak. A great haste is required." "Then speak quick." This calm, abrupt man was both terrifying and reassuring at one and the same time. He inspired fear and confidence. Marius related the adventure to him. That a person with whom he was not acquainted otherwise than by sight was to be inveigled into a trap that very evening. That as he occupied the room adjoining the den, he, Marius Pontmercy, a lawyer, had heard the whole plot through the partition. That the wretch who had planned the trap was a certain Jondrette. That there would be accomplices, probably some prowlers of the barriers, among others a certain Panchaud, alias Printanier, alias Brigand. That Jondrette's daughters were to lie in wait. That there was no way of warning the threatened man, since he did not even know his name. And that finally, all this was to be carried out at 6 o'clock that evening at the most deserted point of the Boulevard de la Hopital, in house number 5052. At the sound of this number, the inspector raised his head and said coldly, "So it is in the room at the end of the corridor." "Precisely," answered Marius, and he added, "Are you acquainted with that house?" The inspector remained silent for a moment, then replied as he warmed the heel of his boot at the door of the stove, "Apparently." He went on, muttering between his teeth and not addressing Marius so much as his cravat, "Patron Manette must have had a hand in this." This word struck Marius. "Patron Manette," said he. "I did hear that word pronounced, in fact." As he repeated to the inspector the dialogue between the long-haired man and the bearded man in the snow behind the wall of the Rue du Petit Banquier, the inspector muttered, "The long-haired man must be Brujon, and the bearded one Demilliard, alias Dumilliards." He had dropped his eyelids again and became absorbed in thought. "As for Father What's-his-name, I think I recognize him. Here, I've burned my coat. They always have too much fire in these cursed stoves. Number 5052, former property of Gorbeau." Then he glanced at Marius. "You saw only that bearded and that long-haired man. And Panchaud. You didn't see a little imp of a dandy prowling about the premises." "No." "Nor a big lump of matter resembling an elephant in the Jardin des Plantes." "No." "Nor a scamp with the air of an old red-tail." "No." "As for the 4th, no one sees him, not even his adjuncts, clerks, and employees. It is not surprising that you did not see him." "No, who are all those persons?" asked Marius. The inspector answered.
Besides, this is not the time for them.
He relapsed into silence, then resumed.
50-52. I know that, Barrick. Impossible to conceal ourselves inside it without the artists seeing us, and then they will get off simply by countermanding the vaudeville. They are so modest. An audience embarrasses them. None of that. None of that. I want to hear them sing and make them dance.
This monologue concluded, he turned to Marius and demanded, gazing at him intently the while.
Are you afraid?
Of what? Said Marius.
Of these men.
No more than yourself, retorted Marius rudely, who had begun to notice that this police agent had not yet said monsieur to him. The inspector stared still more intently at Marius, and continued with sententious solemnity.
There you speak like a brave man and like an honest man. Courage does not fear crime, and honesty does not fear authority.
Marius interrupted him.
That is well, but what do you intend to do?
The inspector contented himself with the remark.
The lodgers have pass keys with which to get in at night. You must have one.
Yes, said Marius.
Have you it about you?
Yes.
Give it to me,
said the inspector. Marius took his key from his waistcoat pocket, handed it to the inspector, and added,
If you will take my advice, you will come in force.
The inspector cast on Marius such a glance as Voltaire might have bestowed on a provincial academician who had suggested a rhyme to him. With one movement, he plunged his hands, which were enormous, into the two immense pockets of his topcoat and pulled out two small steel pistols of the sort called knock-me-downs. Then he presented them to Marius, saying rapidly in a curt tone,
Take these, go home, hide in your chamber, so that you may be supposed to have gone out. They are loaded. Each one carries 2 balls. You will keep watch. There is a hole in the wall, as you have informed me. These men will come. Leave them to their own devices for a time. When you think matters have reached a crisis and that it is time to put a stop to them, fire a shot. Not too soon. The rest concerns me. A shot into the ceiling, the air, no matter where. Above all things, not too soon. Wait until they begin to put their project into execution. You are a lawyer. You know the proper point.
Marius took the pistols and put them in the side pocket of his coat.
That makes a lump that can be seen,
said the inspector.
Put them in your trousers pocket.
Marius hid the pistols in his trousers pocket.
Now,
pursued the inspector,
there is not a minute more to be lost by anyone. What time is it? 2:30. 7 o'clock is the hour.
6 o'clock, answered Marius.
I have plenty of time, said the inspector, but no more than enough. Don't forget anything that I've said to you. Bang, a pistol shot.
Rest easy, said Marius. And as Marius laid his hand on the handle of the door on his way out, the inspector called to him.
By the way, if you have occasion for my services between now and then, come or send here. You will ask for Inspector Javert.
Thank you for joining Bite at a Time Books today, while we read a bite of one of your favorite classics. Again, my name is Bree Carlile, and I hope you come back tomorrow for the next bite of Les Miserables. Don't forget, you can sign up for our newsletter at biteatatimebooks.com. And while you're there, check out our t-shirt shop. You can look in the show notes or on our website, biteatatimebooks.com, for the rest of the links for our show. We'd love to hear from you on social media. You can find us everywhere at Bite at a Time Books.